Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another all-new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today we are joined by Joe Ward, the director of the City of St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, talking about their huge Christmas Traditions Festival. Later on, we'll be joined by Rob Levy from the Celestial Intervention Agency, talking about the last season of the 13th Doctor's Doctor Who. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area hearing this on 105.3 FM or 1380 AM, thank you very much for finding us there. If you're streaming this out there in the world, listening to us online, thank you very much for finding us and subscribing there. And of course, if you're hearing this after the fact in the podcast form on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Podomatic, we greatly appreciate your listening to us there each and every week. This entire show is brought to you by the City of St. Charles, the Greater Convention and Visitors Bureau for St. Charles. And right now, they're hip deep in their Christmas Traditions Festival. It's been going on for a while now. We've talked about it the past several weeks. And here to tell us more about it is the director of said CVB, Joe Ward. How are you, sir?
And yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I know it's a busy time for St. Charles. I've been blown away by all the people who come literally from all over the world just for this festival. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really an amazing festival. And if there's anyone out there that still somehow hasn't come to Christmas Traditions in St. Charles, they really need to make it a priority. I mean, it's just been fun. I mean, it's so fun. There's just so much culture, texture of the community, a celebration of the season. It's tremendous. And to see the kids with those smiles on their faces and discovering the magic of Christmas is just wonderful.
And this is its 44th year going on. So it's the longest running Christmas festival. And I think it is the biggest in the country based on the numbers I've looked at.
Yeah, as far as we can tell, you're exactly right. And definitely it's in its 44th year. And I think one of the things that makes it so special is 44 years ago, they didn't start with the idea that 44 years later there'd be a festival. It was really just a group of people, a community that got together and walked down Main Street with singing Christmas carols and hanging out and with a Yule log and just kind of gathering for the season. And so it slowly I would say slowly developed for a while, and now it just seems to be growing by leaps and bounds. The thousands of people on Main Street and then surrounding St. Charles has just been terrific. So we're looking forward to, we're a little more than halfway through this year's festival. One more weekend to go after this, but there's still lots of time to get out there and enjoy it.
So I've taken time, and I've spoken with several of the shopkeepers and vendors and everything like that. I know one particular shopkeeper I spoke with at the French Flea. She said the amount that she's seen this year in business is actually twice as much as last year. I know, like you just said, the festival continues to grow. When you guys take your numbers, I've seen census people out there. What do you guys base a lot of your figures? Is it off of the amount of revenue that the shops report? Is it because obviously there's no turnstile at the edge of the street as people can go through to tick off how many people are there. So how do you? What's the conglomerate like? Where do you draw all the information from to come up with the numbers to cover this thing?
Yeah, well, great question. Unfortunately, you don't have a ticket gate around St. Charles. I guess that's the good part and the bad part that we don't. But when it comes to getting the numbers, really the information that we get from people is directly, we sit with them and ask them, what they spent for those that want to participate. We don't need all the gory details, but, hotel, restaurant, any retail purchases, and just sort of a general assessment of what they've purchased. So we do not add any multipliers into that, and we just take people from what they're telling us. And when you do 1,000 or 2,000 surveys over a festival, you have a really nice sample that you can draw conclusions from. And we also find out in there where they're coming from, and we've adjusted over the years our marketing and advertising campaign based on where we're hearing folks are coming from. And and so that's been great. And we are finding more and more people coming from out of town, which is, when I mean out of town, I mean 300 to 500 miles away, that they've made this a priority. And the thing that I think is just part of the reason why we're on the trajectory we are is 98% of the people who come say that they're going to come back. And obviously it doesn't take all of them to come back and tell a few friends for this to grow. It does just take that. And so it's just been amazing to see. And people like yourself are delivering a great experience to where somehow, though, you've got 2 out of 100 that don't want to come back. So there's obviously 2% out there that don't. But no, I think it's, you just find very few people now who just kind of happen upon the festival. There's definitely become something people are planning on and inviting others and friends to a must-see thing that's become a tradition for families.
And it's amazing, too, because like you said, there are people, from all over. I was at an event last night, and I mentioned it to somebody, and they said, really? I don't think I've ever been there. And they live in Chesterfield. They've never been. So it's like, you need to come over to St. Charles. But then we've got people I know that I interacted with a few weeks ago who came all the way from France for the festival. It's crazy how people in Chesterfield may not have seen it, but people are coming from Europe to attend this event.
Well, I think throughout the year, through my job, I happen to do a lot of presentations to, let's say the Lions Club or Kiwanis and things like that. And every time I'm at those, I always ask about Christmas traditions and how many people have come. And it surprises me, honestly, in the room that maybe I get 25 to 30% who've said they've come. And to me, it's one of the signs of where people don't typically think that, hey, my hometown where I live is a place where has a world-class event. They just don't think. It's kind of human nature in some ways to people who just maybe don't get out as much as others. So it's amazing to see when we, yesterday I'm down there and I'm talking to people from, Oregon, and we've got Wisconsin, and of course Illinois, Indiana, New York, and then you go to the Lions Club and you've got 25% of them. So there's definitely still room to grow for people to come out. We still have room for people. We love when people come and celebrate, and we just hope it continues to grow, and we'll keep delivering that experience to match.
And like you said, they're coming from Wisconsin. So again, one of the Scandinavian countries they're coming from to visit the festival. It's amazing. I kid, of course. It's a little cold in Wisconsin, but it's not that. Bad joke. Sorry. Max, we'll edit that part out. We'll go back. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. But yeah, it is such an amazing thing. And I know you've got children, and you've been doing the festival. This is your 5th year doing it? 6th year?
Yeah, believe it or not, this is my 5th Christmas tradition. So, the first year I came, I kept hearing about it. And then when you come, so I tried to stay out of its way, let's say. And I think for the most part, I still try to do that. But, one of the things that, we've added since I've been here is a few more caroling groups, which I just felt like it was such a great festival. But maybe if we were missing anything was maybe a little bit more sounds of the season. So we've added a few of those over the years. And as you alluded to with my children, my boys are 6 and 9. And so, this being my 4th full year in 5th Christmas traditions, my youngest was 2 when I came here. And so as a father, just to have, this experience too, to have my kids around there where they literally think 10 Santas are my best friends. And that's just, it's just wonderful. It's just been great on that aspect. And it even amazes me every year, the day or two that I get down there with my kids, how even I can kind of forget for a minute that, yes, I'm responsible overall for the festival, and just see the kids enjoy it and they buy into it all. And if kids who know as much about this festival as mine can still enjoy it, those that just show up and walk right into a Christmas wonderland are absolutely amazed time and time again.
And that's what the kids really, the parents come down, and I think a lot of the adults enjoy it, but the kids really just eat it up, and they get the cards from the collectibles, from the characters who are out there with the cards. But it's, for those of you listening, if you maybe haven't been before, maybe if you're thinking about coming out, discover stcharles.com is the website that we always tell you about each week. And you go into the events tab, and there it is, Christmas traditions. You can click right there and see pictures that people send in, because there's always, I go on Instagram and I'll look for the hashtag St. Charles, or I'll look for hashtag Christmas traditions, and the people posting these incredible pictures. And you even put some of those up on the City of St. Charles website from Instagram with little connections to who posted them.
Yeah, we have a great thing on our website, which is right on the front page, and it searches actually for certain hashtags related to St. Charles. Obviously, this time of year, Christmas traditions is the most popular one. And then you can just see some of the best photos that have been out there being taken. It's pretty much, it searches Instagram, Twitter, not as much Facebook. So you just see a lot of great Instagram perspective of St. Charles. And for any time of year, you'll also, if you go into some of the deeper galleries, you'll just see a really great perspective of what guests think about St. Charles and that. And, it's always interesting for me to look, because, again, it's kind of like that local that doesn't necessarily know, or doesn't necessarily think it's maybe the best place to hang out and have their own vacation, when even I go in there and look and say, wow, I never would have thought that would be something that would appeal to a visitor. But meanwhile, there's 30 pictures that have been taken, of that particular area. So it's kind of a nice way to learn. But I think Christmas traditions is sort of a common denominator. I don't know anybody that goes down there and can't find some way just to let the troubles of the day go and buy into the whole concept of being with all these characters from all over the country, from stories, throughout literally the Christmas traditions we've all grown up with, and have a laugh, have a smile, and then even some people, when they hear that particular Christmas carol, have a tear too.
Yeah, I should mention too, because we're talking about Christmas traditions, but as I've promote St. Charles every week, and I'm so proud to do so, there's always something going on, even when it's not the Christmas festival. I mean, you get the Legends and Lanterns, there's the Heritage Day festivals, there's all sorts of things, and it's such a fantastic place to do it. It's just so picturesque and historic and scenic that it's like there's just something for everybody. So you, as the I guess main guy, you've got to be so proud to have such a fantastic place to host all of these events.
Well, I'm really fortunate and really, just really glad that I get the opportunity to do this as part of my career. There's definitely there's responsibility that comes with it. So it's to say it's not all fun, all the time, but it is, our business is to create fun and experiences. So we can be the ones that take it seriously behind the scenes. The people don't need to see how sausage is made, right? They need to have a good time. But part of St. Charles, the biggest thing is the city was, founded in 1769, and so the streets and the buildings are from that era, and so it's not a facade that we build and stages that we build for these events. Our backdrop is, this historic community, and really what the closest thing I've ever seen in the United States to a European village, right here in the middle of Missouri and in the Midwest, and it's just a great place to be part of, and again, feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to help tell the stories of St. Charles.
And just to remind everyone listening, so this weekend, you've got today and then Krampusnacht, Wednesday night. We've got stuff going on next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so get down. There's photos with Santa at the train depot. There's the Jack Frost Ice Block Party. There's carolers all up and down the streets. Interact with the carolers. Great places to eat. If you've not been, this is your chance. Come out this last weekend and really make some great Christmas memories. Joe Ward, Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, thank you so much for being on air again. We always appreciate having you on.
Well, thank you, James, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody listening, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There he goes. We'll tell you more about St. Charles, of course, as we do every week as this show progresses. We are going to take our first break. We'll come right back with Rob Levy talking all about the brand new 13th Doctor and her first season right after this. Stand by.
I'm a Toys R Us kid. They've got the best for so much less. Store really took your in from bikes to trains to video games. It's the greatest toy store there is.
Hi, this is Alex Kingston. Welcome back. No spoilers, but you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
And we are back. Now we're getting into the 13th Doctor. We've wrapped her first series on BBC and BBC America starring Jodie Whittaker. First female Doctor we've had in the Doctor's 55-plus year run. Right now, we are joined by a frequent guest of the show, Rob Levy with the St. Louis Celestial Intervention Agency, or St. Louis C.I.A. You can find them on Facebook. Just look up Doctor Who St. Louis, and it'll pop right up. You can like their page there, and they've always got events going on. Rob, thanks very much for being on air.
Hey, no problem. How are you?
Good. So anytime we talk Doctor Who, I always like to have you on because I always like to have people who are smarter and more knowledgeable than me about the topic. So this is perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So we've got the final season, or I should say the final episode of 13th Doctor's first season. It was very interesting. We didn't have any of the classic Doctor Who Daleks, Cybermen, Zygons, Slitheen, anything. They went with brand new characters. And I think overall, with maybe just a misstep here or there in a couple episodes, I really enjoyed it. What were your thoughts on her first season?
Yeah, here's the thing. And I've been lucky enough that I'm blogging the season as it goes along for Anglotopia.net. So that's kind of helped me sort of stay in perspective with it. But here's the thing. I think Jodie is great, and I really love the companions. And I really like the dynamic that they had together. Having said that, though, it's supposed to kind of be a series where the doctor is here and the companions are kind of around him or her as the role. Mm-hmm. They sort of changed this whole dynamic of it. And there is this sort of thing where, like, if there's things you're not happy with, you just sort of say, hold on, there's a couple of reasons why. So I'm kind of going back and forth with a lot. So you're going to kind of have to be my psychologist couch here.
Sure.
So while I don't necessarily, I loved her and I loved the companions. I thought some of the stories were not particularly great. A lot of the villains sort of got away without a resolution, and there's kind of some clunky things going on with some of the stories.
Right.
But having said that, I have to also remind myself, it's a whole new writing team that have not written for the show before. So that's kind of cool. So as much as I love the fact we have all these new voices bringing whole new takes on Doctor Who, I have to stop before I criticize it necessarily and say, wait, this is all completely new. You kind of have to let it unfold. So I kind of waited to judge everything as a full season. So I guess I'll start with the writing. I loved the writing for sort of that core chunk of stories we got with Rosa, and then Demons of Punjab, and then I really liked those three just in terms of how they were started, written, and executed. Social commentary aside, or that, just in terms of storytelling and exploring new themes and doing some different things with the show, I really liked that. I thought the one with the spiders was just really weak.
That was odd. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it takes you away. What's interesting about It Takes You Away, James, is I don't know how it was for you, but I watched it a couple times to kind of let it sink in, and it did something interesting. Regardless of the fact that the alien they meet sort of in that void is very much a Star Trek Voyager looking kind of alien, it really was a really good, like, sci-fi fantasy departure for Doctor Who, in that it's sort of like, it was really, really hardcore sci-fi, which was kind of cool and refreshing. So while I'm kind of griping about some of the stories and that, I have to say they're taking some chances and doing some new and fresh things. I'm wondering if they put some of the stories in different orders, in order, if I would have liked it. Like, if they would have moved Witch Hunters.
Yeah.
If they would have moved Witch Hunters earlier in the season and maybe Ghost Monument back in the season, I may have liked Witch Monster or the Witch Hunters more.
That's interesting because the Demon Monument, that's where she didn't have her TARDIS, but my wife and I were talking about it. We didn't see as much of the TARDIS. I kind of noticed that we didn't see as much of the TARDIS inside or out in her season as we have in previous seasons with previous Doctors.
And I think some of that, I was going to get to that in a second, I think some of that too is they are trying very hard to make Doctor Who an international show. So having said that, one, they're filming it it's much more filmic, so it looks amazing. No matter, even if they close up on like a piece of paper, it's a damn good looking piece of paper because of the way it's being filmed, right?
Right.
So I think the fact that they've got that sort of look to it that's really great. They're tending to do more. Filming, in South Africa and different locales as well lends itself to a better look of how stylistically it looks. And I think if you film inside the TARDIS, it's a little more confining, and the lighting is darker, and it creates a different atmosphere. Now, since they're trying to go for a world sort of market, they want to cover as much sort of locales around the planet as they can, kind of.
Right.
So I think, if you're going to the 50s, or if you're going to the 16th century, or if you're going, different places, not having it done in the TARDIS is kind of a good thing. And it does kind of fall in line with their sort of mantra of, like, everything's different this year. I mean, literally from start to finish, from the opening credits of the woman who fell to Earth all the way through the end, there's nothing that's really easy to latch on with, that's familiar about the entire season. You don't see that first episode, wait, we have a whole new doctor, and she's a woman, and then we've got a new sonic screwdriver, we've got new companions, we don't have a TARDIS, I don't know who the alien is, we have new incidental music. Everything about it, it's very, so the minute you step into the new season, sort of literally as a fan, you're stepping on something that's completely unfamiliar terrain, and I think your sort of brain functions weird. Because you've had 50 years of, this is kind of what a regeneration story is like, or this is what's in a Doctor Who story, but everything is literally different. So it's a little tricky to criticize. I do think the stories could have been different in many ways, and I think that some of them could have been better, but I have to say, what we got that was really great was really great. I mean, Rosa was just taken as a piece of television itself was really great, and as an exploration of the role of the Doctor and the companions, it was really great. The same with, Demons in the Punjab. It doesn't have a happy ending. It's completely different. Kerblam was just a lot of fun. It felt like a Sylvester McCoy episode to me. Yes. It felt like a McCoy episode to me. And it's really funny. There's a friend of mine named Rob Alsop who designed the robots for that story. And it just looks great. The whole thing looks great with that story. And you've got Lee Mack. Now, getting back to the other thing that's interesting is you've got a season that's really, really sort of, even though there's not an overall arc, it's got a lot of sort of like stuff going on that's pretty heavy drama. So you've got the drama of Punjab, you've got the drama of Ghost Monument, you've got this whole thing that Graham's going through, his relationship with Ryan. You've got all these different things going on, right? But still, there are moments of this season, more so than probably a lot of the seasons in the new series, that are funny. It's a lot lighter at times, too.
It did have its light moments, absolutely, and that's one of the things I kind of enjoyed. It. She almost, at certain points, I felt she was channeling a little bit David Tennant, 10th Doctor. But yeah. Let's take a quick break. We'll hit a commercial break. We'll come right back talking with Rob Levy of the St. Louis Celestial Intervention Agency. More about the 13th Doctor's first season right after this, so stand by.
Hello, my name is Sylvester McCoy. I want you to listen to Geek to Me Radio. Otherwise, if you don't, I'll cry.
We are back, breaking down Jodie Whittaker's first season as the 13th Doctor with St. Louis Celestial Intervention Agency, Rob Levy, talking all about what we thought, how the episodes were, how they did. And one of the things we mentioned right before we went to break is we kind of felt that the episodes did have a lighter tone to them. There were a couple that had darker moments, but I really felt like she was channeling Tennant at certain points. And I love the moment where she opened up the box in the episode Kerblam and had sent a fez to herself from the 11th Doctor's run. They had those really kind of touchstone moments that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of the early part of the season. It looks like she's almost channeling Matt Smith all the time, which I thought was interesting. And then later she kind of settles into Tennant, and then you get little bits of the other Doctors. I mean, she's doing what every person in the role does, where she tries to bring in little bits of the other actors who played it into the role. And, you know, the interesting thing that she's had, which is the other reason why it's really hard to sort of hammer away on a Doctor in their first season, is a lot of the stories that she had for this season were originally, some of them were drafts for a different doctor. Some of them were drafts for a doctor that was male and not female. So there's a lot of little nuances and things they've had to work with. And I think now that we have the break, we'll do more. I mean, there's a couple things they need to fix. Some of the pacing, some of the editing, the sort of the storytelling things I don't necessarily like is a lot of it wraps up really quick without a lot of finishing, clean finishes. They're not writing endings very well. And I think sometimes I'm wondering if that's because they've got 3 companions. So there's a lot of things they sort of need to sort of tighten up and tinker with. I by no means think it's a failure, and no means think that it's awful. I thought it was actually fairly good. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible, but it was an enjoyable, fun season to watch. And if you're a fan of Doctor Who, it was kind of different. You're like, what is this? And it has nothing to do with casting a different gendered character in the lead role. It's just more of like, where are the Daleks? Where are all the things I'm familiar with? And I think that's more of the issue with it, is sort of the getting used to it. I do also, James, want to say that it was really nice to have different incidental music for the series.
Yeah.
I thought the scoring was really, like, one of the things we got with the last couple seasons from Matt Smith on was the scoring was just really heavy-handed. And sometimes it's sort of like, it was like watching this big thunderous production, as the story climaxed and things. And this is sort of more nuanced and more varied. And I think that it really let a lot of the storytelling come through a little bit. I mean, I think that's part of the reason Rosa worked and Demons of the Punjab worked, is the scoring. And I think Witchfinders had some really great scoring in it as well. And I think that really does actually help a lot.
One of the things the thing with Rosa is the episode was so beautifully done, and at the end they play that kind of modern, and it immediately took me out of the moment. I felt like I was watching a show on the CW network or something like that. It was like, the modern music at the end that doesn't even fit the 60s time period. It's like, oh, come on. That was for me, immediately almost took that episode down a notch for me. I'm like, this was so good up until this point. Why was that decision made?
Yeah, there's lots of, decisions about it where it's like, oh, you did this. Like, everything is going so well, and then you did this. There's a lot of that going on this season. We don't really know why they have talking bandages that talk to people, but they're scary,
Right.
And you don't really know, like, there's a lot of, okay, who are these people? Where do they come from? What are they doing? What's happening? That's going on, which in many ways is great because you have the theater of your imagination, but at the same time, you kind of like got to explain something. So to that end of it, it's a little tricky. I did think with Witchfinders that it just sort of slowly turned into the absurd kind of as it went on. Mm-hmm. And I know I talked about this earlier, but it would have been great if they took that and I think episodes 5 and 6 and moved those to the front and then sort of pushed back things a little bit. Because I think that having those two, that lull in the in things really sort of slowed down the pacing of the season and really sort of off-put a lot of people. It's really hard to come off of an episode like Rosa with something really good, and then it's really hard to go back to something like Demons of the Punjab in television, which is also really heavy. So I think putting Kerblam kind of where they did was a nice way to sort of break up some of that tension and some of that intensity. But I do think that, and the two stories at the end, I get why those two are together. But I almost wish that the Ghost Monument was pushed back, the Song of whatever, the Conundrum one, that was pushed up. And I think it might have worked a little better if they switched some of the order. And I know we kind of talked about this a little bit. And I'm with you about not having as much of the TARDIS, but I do want to say that I really hate the interior of it.
Yeah, the new look for the TARDIS, I think, to take a line from both Patrick Troughton's Doctor and David Tennant's, I don't like it.
Yeah.
The redecorating, not so much.
It looks like a giant sort of lava kind of weird thing, and I'm not even sure. In the past, I've been able to look at the different TARDISes and see what they're going for. Like, the Tennant TARDIS it's like, okay, the colors kind of go with his wardrobe and his clothes and things like that. This I don't really understand, and I don't like the fact that when they open the TARDIS, you can see in it.
Yeah, and I don't understand too. It seems like it started with when when we had 10 go into 11. Why does the TARDIS have to explode every time? It seems like that there's something goes wrong, catastrophically wrong with the TARDIS when the Doctor regenerates, which I kind of find something new that has literally never happened before. I'm not understanding that. But I do want to mention, too, the companions, because this is probably the largest number of companions we've had on such a consistent basis. Usually it's just the Doctor and one other person. Obviously, Amy and Rory were along. We had 2 other people. But some people I've talked to about this said they don't like it as much because there's too much to do, because they're trying to deal with too many people, too many storylines. But I kind of felt like... I don't know if it's just the difference or what, or the actors playing their parts so well. I enjoyed it.
Where it gets interesting is when you had Eccleston, Rose was the only companion, but you still had Mickey and her mom in the stories. And then you move into Tennant, where you pretty much have Rose and Tennant, and that's pretty much them. You have Rose and Donna, and you have Martha, and it's there. Rose and Martha are both pretty much kind of on their own with Tennant. But then you get to Donna. When you get to Donna, you get, Winifred a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you get to Matt Smith, as you mentioned, with 2 companions. So they kind of, whereas sometimes where they've only had one companion, the episodes still have somebody else in them with it that sort of like takes on sort of the bundle of a second companion, kind of a little bit. So we haven't seen the sort of classic Doctor companion, no other fringe characters, family, ex-boyfriends, attachments, any of that around before, really, right? There's a while in Tennant when you had Sarah Jane, you had Captain Jack, and you had that was a bit much, right? And we learned that lesson.
Right.
And we got back to when we got the Doctor with Clara, they brought in Mickey. And then it's just like, okay, come on. So now they're sort of piling on with 3 companions. And what's interesting is in the past, when they've tried to do one companion with like an incidental character appearing a lot, they sort of fumbled giving that extra character something to do, kind of like Danny Pink, right?
Right.
Then with this series, they have a Doctor with 3 companions, and for the most part, they have a lot to do. Now, the early part of the season, there are times in the season where it's really sort of Yaz-centric, and I think sort of she kind of emerged early as the one that was getting a lot of the workload, and then all of a sudden, they ratchet up the Graham-Ryan dynamic, and then they pull her back, and then they sort of equally. So I think they really did an okay job of spreading it around a little, right?
Yeah,
and
I agree. I think just that it is hard to balance that many companions, but I think for the most part, they would kind of bring one to the forefront each time, which was, that helped quite a bit. We're going to take our next break. Rob, you're still good to stick with us throughout the break, yes?
Yes.
All right, we're going to come right back, talking more with Rob Levy all about Doctor Who after this, so stand by.
Hello, this is Catherine Tate. Donna Noble is listening to Geek to Me Radio. Donna Noble has been saved. Donna Noble is listening to Geek to Me Radio. Donna Noble has been saved. Donna Noble is listening to Geek to Me Radio. Donna Noble has been saved.
My very favorite companion of the Doctor Who series, Donna Noble, played by the lovely Catherine Tate. This segment brought to you by Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is that website. Make sure you check it out. If you are a movie fan, you need to see your movies in a Marcus Theater. Locations in 11 different states: Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. If you haven't seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse yet, you want to check it out at Marcus Theaters. Or are you gearing up to go see Aquaman when it comes out this coming weekend? Marcus Theaters has you covered. You can look up the movies. You can see reviews. You can buy your tickets right there online. Check out the movies that are coming out. Check out the movies that are now playing. Even look up their food and drink options. They've got a lot to choose from between their normal concession fares like fantastic popcorns. I'm a Snowcaps guy if you go to the movie theater. But they've also got their 5-star lounge. If you want to have a little adult beverage before you go into the theater, take your drink with you. Go into one of their specialty bistro plexes. You can have them bring it to you right there in your seat. I know that's a huge plus for some people. Dinner and a movie all in the same spot. Marcus Theaters has you covered on all those fronts. Check out the website and make sure you sign up for their Marcus Magical Rewards Club, where you get $5 Tuesdays. You want to see a movie for $5 on Tuesdays? You get specialties, you'll get coupons, you'll get discounts on your concessions. And right now, for every $25 gift card you purchase, you want to give someone a stocking stuffer, a little gift for Christmas. Buy a $25 Marcus gift card, get a $5 snack cash card back for yourself. Give a little, get a little. MarcusTheaters.com is that website. Be sure to check them out. Very proud to have them as a sponsor for Geek to Me Radio. Still talking with Rob Levy of the St. Louis Celestial Intervention Agency, the St. Louis C.I.A. Just so I don't forget at the end of all this, Rob, let everyone know where they can find the St. Louis C.I.A. online and out there on the website, and let them know where they can find you and your reviews and blog posts.
So we have a Facebook page. It's Doctor Who's Celestial Intervention Agency, or if you want, you can just do a search of Doctor Who's St. Louis C.I.A. And that is pretty much our big presence. We just had our holiday party. We did a thing for First Friday. We're gearing up for a whole new year, so it's going to be exciting. But that's the easiest way to find us. I do some writing for a couple different sites, Review STL, and I'm getting ready to launch a blog soon, but I'll tell you about that when that happens. And then also Anglotopia.net, which is this site basically really devoted to all things English, whether it's English history, if you're interested in the monarchy or television or whatever. And I've been doing for, good Lord, almost 10 years now a Doctor Who blog for them. And needcoffee.com, which is also the podcast I'm on. And so there's all kinds of stuff.
And like I said, you are an expert. You go to these panels. I'm so jealous. Like Dragon Con, you actually get to sit down with John Barrowman and talk to him and ask him questions, and all the people you've interviewed.
The thing about Dragon Con is that it really is a fan experience. If you want to go and see your favorite people, they come. You get to do panels with it. I've been very, very fortunate. It's another great convention I'm doing this year called Wholanta, which is in Atlanta. You can just look it up online. That is a lot of fun. It's a regional convention in the South, and it's run by a bunch of very, very, very nice people as well. So, if you're interested sort of in what the Dragon Con people are doing with, shows like Doctor Who, you can look up like the Brit Track, which is the British Media Track on Facebook. You can look up the American Sci-Fi Track, if you're into the CW stuff. So there's lots of different ways you can kind of go find that stuff, or you can just listen to James every week and be in the know as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, of course. And before we let you go, we want to mention a couple different things. We've got one of the things that's going to throw some people is the first time since I've watched Doctor Who, since they relaunched it in 2005, we will not be getting a Christmas special. We're getting a New Year's special. So just give people a brief idea in like maybe a minute why we're getting that.
So basically the thinking this year is, first of all, the competition for shows on Christmas Day in the UK is insane, first thing. Second, Doctor Who is going to a global market, particularly in Asia, and having a Christmas special kind of doesn't necessarily fit very well. There's a lot of explanation about a lot of the Christmas traditions and things you'd have to do to a foreign market. So pushing it back to New Year's does a couple things. One, it eliminates a lot of the having to explain a lot of Christmas stuff. It also eliminates a lot of the competition. You're the only show in town, for that kind of a thing. But it also, and I think more importantly, frees up a story of elements of Christmas. Because sometimes you have really great Doctor Who stories, and they have to put a Christmas theme in it because it's Christmas. And then they can't tell the story they want to tell. So I think this is obvious, like in Matt Smith's final story. If they didn't have to make that a Christmas story at all, he would have had a much better Christmas, or not Christmas, regeneration story. So having it on New Year's Day opens it up in terms of time. I think it's going to be over an hour this time. It's going to be long and big and expansive. It allows you to tell a bigger story, sort of, you don't have to put Christmas trees in. You don't have to try to explain why the Doctor knows Santa Claus or a superhero or whatever. I think it opens up the storytelling. And I think in this case, too, I think they're going to get rid of the companions in some way, shape, or form, some of them at least. And I think that'll allow them to write them out, because I think the Graham story is almost told, for example. So I think I think Graham and Ryan may leave. I'm not sure about Yaz, but I think that you get an opportunity to tell the story you want to tell more unfettered by doing a Christmas episode.
It will be a
Or
little
by
odd,
New Year's.
but yeah, I do get the reasoning behind it. That does make sense if they're appealing
That's
more
the
to a
short
global
strategy.
market. Yeah. Rob Levy, I want to thank you again for your time today. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk Doctor Who with you.
No, it's
And
great.
we will have you on again soon.
All righty.
Take care. Thank you so much. There he goes, Rob Levy of the St. Louis C.I.A. Look him up on Facebook just look for Doctor Who St. Louis. They'll pop right up. We're going to take our last break. We'll come back and just give you a few little ideas of what we got coming up for the year right after this. Stand by.
This is Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
My thanks once again to my guest today, Joe Ward of the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau and Rob Levy of the St. Louis C.I.A. I do want to mention, if you're in the St. Louis area, Rob and the St. Louis C.I.A. have their first meeting on January 19th, so you can go to that meeting, check it out, and see if it's something you want to be part of. It's Doctor Who, so how would you not want to be a part of it? Very excited. We are going to take a year off from Doctor Who. We're not getting a new season until 2020, but that's a good thing because evidently there was a little bit of contention between Chris Chibnall, the show writer, and the BBC about what they were going to do. So I think this means we're definitely going to get it because there was talk for a little while there of maybe Chris Chibnall might go, and if he went, so would Jodie Whittaker, and we only get one season of the 13th Doctor, which would not do. We need more of this, at least her. I do like her companion group. If they can stick around for another season, we'll see. We might get a reset of the companions, but that's nothing new to Doctor Who. If you're following me on Twitter and Instagram, follow me on Periscope, because right after this show airs, we're going to do our Voltron Funko Pop Paladin giveaway to the people who have retweeted and followed. We're going to get into that a little bit on Periscope when we go live for the drawing, because some people, once again, you have to follow and retweet. A retweet does not get you entered. You have to be following me, and we do check. But I do thank all my new followers. It's so exciting to see that number tick up. And hopefully you'll stick with me, because I'm going to give you an alternative way to win. If you don't win this one, you're going to get another shot at it. And we're going to try to do some more giveaways as the year progresses, because I love seeing all these cool followers, like some of these names that pop up in my feed. Obviously, huge fans of certain genres, which I love seeing. So thank you all for participating in that. Thank you all for following me. Hopefully you stick with me. We're going to come back next week with Bex Taylor-Klass, who voices Pidge. Very excited about talking with her. Stand by for next week, my friend.
It's not in the way you watch iZombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, citizens of Ranscore Ave Kolos. Good night.